Everybody, Bryan Alvarez here, After Dark Radio, every Wednesday, 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network, as well as twitch.tv/F4W Video and video.f4wonline.com, our YouTube channel. And it is a big day today. We've got a special guest here on the program. The Reverend Bill Bean returns to the program. He was on many months ago talking demons and exorcisms, and he is back today. And so we're going to continue that discussion. Got a lot of questions for him. Listen back to the last show that we did. We'll have some follow-ups to that program. And as always, if you are watching live on YouTube or Twitch, you're welcome to post questions in the chat box, and I'll try to get some of those on the air for the Reverend Bill Bean today. So once again, demons, exorcisms. I'll never forget that episode of Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, where he explained that today on the show we would be discussing giants, demons, and other issues. So that's what we're going to discuss here today on the program. By the way, we have T-shirts. I'm not wearing mine today, but I got a Bigfoot shirt on. But we do have a new After Dark Radio T-shirt, which is available in our store, which you can access by going to f4wonline.com/shirts. f4wonline.com/shirts. It is through Pro Wrestling Tees. You can find us there as well. Pro Wrestling Tees. Grab the new After Dark Radio T-shirt. It's a fun one, and maybe there will be more of those to come. So anyway, we're going to get going here today. As noted, the Reverend Bill Bean. If you have questions for him, you're welcome to email me as well, Bryan@AfterDarkRadioshow.com. That is Bryan@AfterDarkRadioshow.com. Back in the moment with the Reverend. After Dark Radio, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Hey, everybody. Bryan Alvarez here. It's After Dark Radio. It's Wednesday here on the program, and we are here on Sports Byline. And the Reverend Bill Bean is unavailable. He has not answered the phone. And, this happens here and there on these different programs. And during the break, I called, and there was no answer. I called again. There was no answer. And I said, Dom, fire up a replay. Get it ready. If he doesn't answer, we're doing a replay today. I'll just go to this show. There's a wrestling show. There's a Dynamite show today. And I said, Dom, if he doesn't answer, just fire up a replay. I'll just leave early. So, well, he didn't answer, and I was about to have that replay fired up, and you know what I thought? I thought I'm going to do it. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. Here's the thing, everybody. Here's the thing. It's good practice. I got nothing. I got nothing for you for the next hour. Except, I got some emails here. I got some news stories from last week. But, sometimes you got to do something like this. It makes you better, I like to think, at your job. So I'm going to wing it here for the next hour on After Dark Radio. And, I could always use help from you guys if you would like to. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started here today. I've still got a bunch of emails. We've been requesting emails from you guys about various things. Is there anything strange that happened in your hometown? You have any weird stories from where you live? I'm here in Bothell, Washington. We've got the alleged Bothell Hell House, which I actually still have never driven by because it's actually not. I mean, it's in Bothell, but I mean, if you live in Bothell, it's not really in Bothell. It's way up north. But anyway, I've never been there. But that's certainly a weird thing around here. And, everybody's got weird stuff. There's a Maltby Cemetery, 13 Steps to Hell. I've told these stories 1,000 times. I don't need to tell them again. I want to hear your stories. So if you got something weird in or around your hometown, well, I want you to send it to me, Bryan at AfterDarkRadioshow.com. That is Bryan at AfterDarkRadioshow.com. If you got any questions, comments from past shows, had a lot of guests on recently. We've, I was never intending to do a show where we talked about, all of these biblical topics. We've talked about the Ark of the Covenant and Noah's Ark and all of this stuff. And, we just got one guest after another. It was like 4 straight weeks. This was like, should have been on CRN or whatever the Christian radio network. I think that used to exist. But if you got comments on any of that, you're welcome to send them in because we've been talking about it a lot. Any Bigfoot stories, you're welcome to do those. This past Sunday, I actually almost went to a Bigfoot deal. There was, it was called a Bigfoot Town Hall. At the Packwood Town Hall in Packwood, Washington. It was this past Sunday, and the problem was, well, there were 2 problems. Number one, Packwood is a good 2.5, 3 hours away, and it was a long way to go, and it only went till 5 o'clock, so I would have to get up very early, drive 3 hours. There's always, whenever it's a long trip, and it's just like everything's happening in a kind of a short window, it's kind of like, so everything's got to go perfect. It's like that time I didn't go down to Dynamite in Portland. Everything has to go perfect, or what's the point? So I didn't go, but I guess they were doing, and the other thing is I couldn't find a lot of information about it. There was just like a save the date and such, and it was kind of hard to find information on it. It looked like it was just kind of like a little get-together at a bar in Packwood, Washington, 3 hours away. So I kind of decided I'm not going to do that one, but I almost went. They have them here all the time, so I'll go to the next one. But, we have a lot of that stuff in the area, so if you have anything, let me know. Bryan at AfterDarkRadioshow.com. Let me know what's on your mind. We also had, it was weird stories from your hometown, true crime stories in your area, like anything that was related to you that was, or nearby where you live that was, some famous true crime story, looking for those. I'm going to go through some of these emails, and, anything rings a bell, email me. So this here is from Steven. He says here that I live in a town on Long Island called Belmore. Happens to be about 10 minutes down the road from another town where the accused Gilgo Beach serial killer, Rex Howerman, lived right up until his dramatic arrest a few years ago, which made national headlines. Well, this person here, Lasting, says he lives near Belmore. Well, if we're being honest, I don't know the story of Rex Howerman. So before we continue this email, let's find out what happened here. This is a news story from the New York Post just last week, actually. Gilgo Beach murders tied to Rex Howerman by, quote, unreliable DNA software that needed updates due to glitches. Let's find out what happened in the actual story, then we'll read this. Let's see. What did he do? Okay. So it looks like he's a 61-year-old architect. Okay. Body count stops at 7. Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney said Wednesday the investigation into alleged Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Howerman is ended, as he revealed the feds released $13 million in frozen funds for the prosecution. There comes a time when you have to say that a case has an investigation phase, a grand jury phase, a pretrial phase, and a trial phase. The investigation phase is pretty much closed. Howerman, 61, stands accused of killing 7 sex workers since 1993, dumping them along Ocean Parkway. Remains found between 2010 and 2011. Murders remained unsolved until he was arrested in July 2023, charged with the deaths of 3 women. January 24, he was charged with killing another. And then he was ultimately charged with 3 other murders, the first victim of which was killed in 1993. Police had searched his home twice since the arrest and have been prepping for what appears to be a high-profile murder trial. So that's the story there. All right, back to the email here, if I can get to it. Shortly thereafter, and being the curious type, Stephen says, I drove past his house, Rex Howerman's house, in the middle of the night just to see what it looked like. He said, I do this occasionally with the Amityville Horror House, which also happens to be about 10 minutes from where I live. Guess I'm just a weirdo. The block where he lived was completely unremarkable, totally average suburban street, except for the dingy, falling apart Howerman house, which stood out like a sore thumb. As I pulled up to the house, I noticed something strange. The front door began to slowly open, and a shadowy figure appeared in the doorway. I immediately freaked out and drove away, not wanting to stay any longer to see if it was merely a police officer poking around the home or something far more sinister. This all came full circle months later when one of my close friends, nervously over drinks, told me that he had come into personal contact with Howerman shortly before his arrest. My friend had visited his office several times in New York City in an attempt to convince him to upgrade his computer software for his architect business, as it was woefully out of date. My friend never closed the deal, but came away with the impression that given how disorganized Howerman's offices were, he must be a mess in his personal life too. Was that ever an understatement? And that is from Steve. So, presumably, Steve never found out who it was that opened the door of Rex Howerman's house when he drove by. Somebody opened the door, appeared in the doorway, and he freaked out and drove away. And I guess this was after the arrest had happened. So there you go. Very close to the Amityville Horror House as well. What a place to live on Long Island. He wanted to give a shout-out to MJF as well, since he's originally from Plainview. Back in a moment, After Dark Radio, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Bryan Alvarez here, After Dark Radio, every Wednesday, 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network, as well as twitch.tv/F4W video, F4WOnline.com/YouTube. And you can actually watch this show on Twitch. Just use your Amazon Prime account to sign up. Amazon Prime has a secret perk. If you have Amazon Prime, you get a free Twitch subscription every month. So you go to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/F4W video. You go to subscribe, and you put in your Amazon Prime info, and you can subscribe for free. You can watch this show on video, HD video. What could be more fun than looking at my face for an hour every Wednesday, 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern? Also, F4WOnline.com/YouTube, which airs the show live in beautiful HD, and you can also watch previous episodes of the show as well. And if you're a wrestling fan, you also get a bunch of wrestling shows. Well, we got a lot of commentary in the chat, and related to what we were talking about here. I'd always prefer if you sent emails, because stuff in the chat gets missed. But this person here says that when I was in high school, my high school teacher told me that Charles Manson used to mow her family's lawn. Well, hey, I mean, probably true. Story like that. My mom went to school with the Green River Killer. I think he was a year older than she was. But she went to school with him. And, hey, Charles Manson, guy's got to make a living. Probably did mow some lawns way back in the day. And this fella here, Sandman, says, what's the name of the guy that killed his wife? And the excuse was he was going to kill her, but he left to get the gun. When he came back, she was already dead. He says, the reason I ask is because my mom knew the guy. Well, the guy in question was Michael Jace, who was on the TV show The Shield. He was convicted in April. Actually, his wife's name was April. In 2014, he was convicted of murdering his wife, April Jace. And he did, in fact, claim that he went to get the gun to scare her, not to kill her, and that when he returned, she was already dead of a gunshot wound. The prosecution argued it was a premeditated act stemming from marital issues. He claimed he went to get the gun intending to scare her. She was already dead when he returned. The prosecution argued that he had planned to kill his wife due to marital problems and his belief that she was having an affair. He was found guilty of second-degree murder, sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. The couple's young son testified to hearing his father say, quote, if you like running, then run to heaven, and then he shot her. So anyway, that's what happened. Michael Jace, 40 years to life in prison. And that was his story. Turned out to be not a very good alibi. Let's see. I guess that Charles Manson, she used to do concessions at a local racetrack when she was a teenager, met Charles, had a conversation with him a couple of times when he was there later. Or actually, no, I'm sorry, this is the Michael Jace. She used to concessions and met him. Later, she met his bodyguard, and he told her, that's somebody else, actually. I guess, well, the story that you brought up was Michael Jace. It might have been similar to another story as well. All right, what else do we have here? It's from Ari. Brian, I grew up in Marlboro, New Jersey. Nice, quiet town, except for one thing that has always had a black eye on it. We had a psychiatric hospital riddled with controversy. That sounds like a lot of psychiatric hospitals back in the day. There were rumors of murders by the farmer who ran the hospital farm. He used a slaughterhouse on the property and would lure the patients into it for him to kill. At one point in the 70s, there was a bomb scare. They took all the patients out on the lawn, waited 15 minutes. No bomb went off, so they went back inside. It was also said that by 1984, there were 151 incidents of missing patients. Sadly, there was actual patient abuse to the point where it was shut down by the state in 1998. The site was left abandoned for years. to the point where it was a rite of passage in high school to break into the grounds and explore it. It was a creepy experience. I don't believe in ghosts and spirits, but some of the noises my friends and I heard that night were haunting. Well, we didn't see the abandoned slaughterhouse. It was said that you could hear the moans and screams of the victims of the farmer. Site was taken over by the Army, became a training site, and it was demolished by 2015. But of course, since it was constructed in the 30s, the pipes had asbestos all over them. Well, this is more of a profile of a place and a story. It is still a fascinating piece of history from my hometown. That is from Ari. And, Sandman says Robert Blake was the person I was talking about. I guess it was a very similar story about another celeb that was on trial for killing his wife and was acquitted in 2005. So basically two people accused of killing their wives, two different stories. But the details you remembered earlier were from the Michael J. story. This one here, I had someone else in the chat say that I needed to look up the Scary Dairy, which is in California. It said there's something inherently spooky. This is from Atlas Obscura. Something inherently spooky about abandoned farm buildings. Remote, hulking, and isolated, their weathered remains have the feeling of a drifting ghost ship or a deserted space station, making people wonder what happened there. This might sound like a subplot. There's a 20th century mental hospital known as the Scary Dairy. The land surrounding Scary Dairy was originally part of the Camarillo State Mental Hospital, established in Ventura County, California in 1932. Hospital was at the forefront of treating conditions previously considered untreatable, developing novel therapeutic practices, behavioral as well as pharmaceutical, to help foster greater freedom and independence in patients previously confined to institutions. The dairy was built near the hospital where patients could grow vegetables, work with animals as part of their therapy. Fruits of their labors went to feed the hospital community, provided the hospital with an additional source of income. In the 60s, the hospital disbanded the dairy, left the buildings to deteriorate. In 1997, the hospital itself closed its doors, stood abandoned until 2002 when it was converted into a university of all things. Newly established California State University, Channel Islands, renovated and occupied the facilities. And in 2009, they purchased the parcel of land which contained the Scary Dairy. So the Scary Dairy is still there, although behind fences and no trespassing signs for safety as well as preservation reasons. However, that obviously hasn't stopped many graffiti artists who have decorated the agricultural buildings. And the fences are close enough for a casual visitor to get a good look and speculate about what it would have been like to work on a farm in a mental hospital. So that, and then going back to Ari's story here, he says, I don't believe in ghosts and spirits, but some of the noises my friends and I heard that night were haunting. So, as noted, the Reverend Bill Bean was scheduled to be on the show today, and I was listening back to his last appearance, and, Bill Bean talked a lot about demons and hauntings and possessions. And in his opinion, obviously, demons and hauntings and possessions, it's all real. These are demons. And I've never believed in ghosts, It's like you die and then your ghost hangs around. Never believed in that, but I've always thought it is possible that what is referred to as a residual haunting is a possibility. So a residual haunting has nothing to do with ghosts, spirits, demons, or anything like that. Allegedly, Bill Bean and others who have investigated hauntings, there are two things going on, okay? If you believe in ghosts and hauntings, okay, a ghost is a manifestation of a dead person that allegedly can follow you around. So if you go into a place that is haunted, or let's say that you live in a house and you do whatever and you manifest a ghost, spirit, demon, whatever, Well, that demon is there for you, with you. And so if you move, the demon, the ghost, whatever goes with you. Skeptical, personally. But the other haunting is what they call a residual haunting, which is the building is haunted, and anybody that goes into that building, they might experience something, and then when they leave, whatever it was stays in the building. So one of the theories of this is that these are not ghosts, spirits, demons, etc. It is like a recording of a past event that somehow is getting played back, okay? Listen, I don't know how, okay? But, when you think about, back before digital, things were recorded on magnetic tape. Things were recorded on vinyl. They were then played back, okay? Maybe in some way, screams, misery, etc., can somehow be recorded in the building and then played back to people to go into the building later. So it's not actually a haunting, it's a recording. We can talk more about this after the break. After Dark Radio Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Bryan Alvarez here, After Dark Radio Sports Byline Broadcasting Network, twitch.tv/F4W Video. Video.f4wonline.com, f4wonline.com/YouTube. Our YouTube channel is back after a hacking. So welcome back, everybody. And a couple of notes from what we were talking about before the break. So, first off, Sandman here says he went to the college by the Scary Dairy. He says, I actually walked up with my roommates when I attended that college. You have graffiti all over the dairy. It's creepy. Huh. Palindrome here says, nah, ghosts exist. They just work in mysterious ways. Hey, listen, I don't know. I'm skeptical. But I did look it up because I was trying to figure out what am I trying to say here, because I know I've heard about it, but what's it actually called? And it is called the stone tape theory. You ready for this? This is from Wikipedia, which I always love stuff on Wikipedia about stuff like this. It says here, the stone tape theory is a pseudo-scientific claim. So whoever wrote this didn't believe it. But then, apparently somebody that did believe it didn't like that the other guy didn't believe it, so he added, citation needed. It is a pseudo-scientific claim that ghosts and hauntings occur when historical information is released from rocks and other items. The idea of materials holding information from emotional or traumatic events aligns with views of 19th century intellectualists and psychic researchers, such as Charles Babbage, Eleanor Sidgwick, and Edmund Gurney. The concept was popularized by the fictional ghost story film The Stone Tape, broadcast on BBC television in 1972. Lots of weird stuff coming out of that BBC. Following the play's popularity, the idea and the term stone tape were retrospectively and accurately attributed to archaeologist turned parapsychologist T.C. Lethbridge, who believed that ghosts were not spirits of the deceased, but were simply non-interactive recordings similar to a movie. So, I mean, it is pseudoscience at this point. In their book, How to Think About Weird Things, Critical Thinking for a New Age, authors Theodore Schick and Louis Vaughn dismissed the idea of a stone tape theory as an irrational claim, stating, the problem is that we know of no mechanism that could record such information in a stone or play it back. Chunks of stone just do not have the same properties as reels of tape. Well, obviously. I mean, here's the thing. I'm skeptical by nature, okay? But a lot of people report, hey, I went into this building, and brother, it's weird. There's weird noises, there's weird sounds. I've seen and heard, like, weird things, okay? So when something like that happens, I mean, what are the options? Person's full of it. Lying, okay? I'm sure some are. But I don't think it's fair. Every single solitary person who says they've had an experience like that is a liar. We can maybe believe that some of them have heard something weird. Okay? Well, what is that weird thing? Maybe it's a rat, mouse, some animal, who knows? If they're hearing screams in an abandoned asylum or something of that nature, okay, let's say that they're actually hearing screams and noises like that in an abandoned psychiatric hospital, okay? So if we presume that these are good, honest people not lying, well, then what are our options? Ghosts? The ghosts of psychiatric patients who suffered and died in that hospital? Or maybe a stone tape theory. These screams and howls, etc., were recorded somehow and played back somehow. Okay, which is more bizarre to you? I mean, yes, we don't have a mechanism for how it would be recorded and played back. I'm aware of that. We also don't have a mechanism for how a dead person's spirit could hang out in the asylum and start screaming. So, listen. To me, Occam's razor is it's more likely there is a mechanism to record this sound and play it back than we got ghosts. I could be wrong. I don't know. Fella here in the chat certainly seems to believe it's ghosts. I think the possibility is it could be something else. And the fact of the matter is, like, there's a lot of stuff that we really don't know that much about. I was just reading an article today, like, they're still trying to figure out new theories for gravity. We all kind of take gravity for granted, I throw a ball in the air, it comes down, Suplex off the top, you go down, not up. You don't keep going off into space. It exists. What is it? Now, there's a lot of theories, but, there's still arguments and theories about what gravity of all things is. So the idea that, it can't possibly be the stone tape theory. It's impossible. We don't get it. Well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff we don't get, but I'm more apt to believe that than a bunch of spirits, which is like they're spirits. They're ethereal, but somehow they're trapped in a certain building. Like they can't go outside. They can't go over to the next building. They're just like trapped right there. A lot of it don't make sense to me. Sorry, but who knows? Person says, I know this will be. There's a little. Actually, this is from something we talked about in March. He says you talked a little bit about Zork. There's actually a rap song from, he says here, nerdcore rapper MC Frontalot that is based on Zork. And though it's nearly 20 years old, it still holds up as a banger. He did a song about Zork in 2005. That's still like a long time after there was such a thing as Zork. Yeah, I used to play. For those of you that don't know what Zork is, well, clearly you're young. I'm old, and back in the day, before they had all these newfangled video games, we had the early computers. We played text games. Yeah, so you would put in the Zork floppy disk, lock it in, and then it would say like, "You're in front of a small house. There is a mailbox out front." And then you type like, "Open mailbox." And then the thing would say, "There's a letter inside." And you would say, "Eat the letter." And then it would say like, "You can't eat the letter." And then you'd say, "Well, open the letter." And then anyway, the whole point is, it's like a text game. And you had to like create your own map. So it's like, okay, well, I know, okay, going west works. Let me make a map. And you'd like map this. It was like, what fun was that? Well, that's all we had back then. But that was Zork. And for a while there, I actually did I did some computer programming in BASIC. The programming language BASIC. I tried to make my own Zork games. And then I did that all the way until Basic A came along. Advanced Basic, Basic A. And I think there was actually a Q Basic after that, but that was like way over my head. I couldn't figure that out. So I quit. And this person goes, you can still play those games online. Yeah, actually, after that show that I did talking about Zork, I went online and I Googled like play Zork, and they are up there. But I think you had to like pay or something. And I guess they're more recent Zork games from 2009. They can't possibly be as good as the original, right? So anyway, Marcel also says, I wanted to mention Frozen Dead Guy Days in Nederland, Colorado. A wild story. It is an annual event that includes a hearse parade, bands, and coffin races. So if you've ever wanted to do any of those, Frozen Dead Guy Days, which started in 2002, an annual celebration held in the town of Nederland, Colorado, until 2023, it says here, so I guess you can't do it anymore. How about that? I wonder what happened to it. It says here it ended in 2023. 1989, a Norwegian citizen brought the corpse of his recently deceased grandfather, Bredo Morstol, to the United States. The body was preserved on dry ice for the trip, stored in liquid nitrogen at the TransTime Cryonics facility in San Leandro, California, from 1990 to 1993. In 1993, Bredo was returned to dry ice, transported to his town of Nederland, where this fella and his mother planned to create a cryonics facility of their own. However, the dude was deported from the U.S. for overstaying his visa. His mother continued keeping her father's body cryogenically frozen in a shack behind her unfinished house. We are way down the rabbit hole here. The mother was evicted from her home for living in a house with no electricity or plumbing. She had no electricity or plumbing, but managed to keep the father's body cryogenically frozen in a shack? She told a local reporter at the time about her father's body and those of two other individuals. And the reporter went to the local city hall in order to let them know about Odd's fears that her eviction would cause her father's body to thaw out. According to an article, she was found guilty by a jury of building use and zoning violations. I guess you need like a permit to store a cryogenically frozen body. The Nederland town judge ordered her to remove the frozen body by March 6th or face 10 days in jail and a $600 fine. The story caused a sensation, it said. The city added a broad new provision to the municipal code, quote, keeping of bodies, outlining the keeping of, quote, the whole or any part of the person, body, or carcass of a human being or animal or other biological species which is not alive upon any property. Because of the publicity, they made an exception for this guy, a grandfather clause, ironically. And then she secured the services of Delta Tech, a local environmental company, to keep the cryonic facility. It was a shack behind the house. So this fellow known as the Iceman, Bo Schaefer of Delta Tech, he, I guess this is when the whole thing started. In honor of the unique resident, Nederland held an annual celebration, first started in 2002, which is called Frozen Dead Guy Days. And they celebrated the second weekend of March, coffin races, a hearse parade, a frozen dead guy look-alike contest, a documentary on the dead guy called Grandpa's in the Tough Shed. It's shown every year. You can do a polar plunge if you want to jump in the Colorado River in March, which generally requires breaking through the ice. Coffin races, a dance called Grandpa's Blue Ball. Bet that guy's glad he's on ice for that one. Pancake breakfast, poetry slam, snowy human foosball, fix a frozen flat, and frozen t-shirt competitions. Wow. That sounds like a sounds like a party. That's my cue. Back in a moment, After Dark Radio, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Bryan Alvarez here, After Dark Radio Sports Byline Broadcasting Network, twitch.tv/F4W video, F4WOnline.com/YouTube. We did it, everybody! We made it through this show just fine. Sandman here says, I'll send a story to you, Brian, on the Granny Show about 2 years ago. I walked on the Channel Islands campus up to what we call the Ringwell. There was an abandoned building across from the hill. We kept on seeing the screen window of one of the rooms slamming open and shut over and over again, and it wasn't even windy. Or windy. We get so many good stories in the chat. Like, send them to me, everybody. Brian at AfterDarkRadioshow.com. I know y'all got stories. I know we got a lot of people listening. I still got a bunch of emails left, but, you know, one thing I've learned in this radio gig is you just never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to answer the phone and who's not. It's one of those days where, like, I had a little bit of time. I was going to do some extra prep, but it was weird. Like, I had this feeling something could happen, but I also had this feeling that he was going to answer. So I had two conflicting feelings. I should have done more prep, but such is life. You live and learn. You barrel on through, everybody. You just do your best, right? But anyway, we are here every Wednesday, 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern on Sports Byline. You can always listen to the show through TuneIn Radio if you don't have a local Sports Byline affiliate. And F4WOnline.com is the place to go if you want to sign up. If you're a wrestling fan especially, F4W Online's got everything you ever wanted to know about wrestling. 83 podcasts a month. A brand new After Dark every week as well. Check it out, F4WOnline.com. And if you're hearing about us for the first time, we got a new subscriber option, F4WOnline.com/new. Full site, everything. Half off. So check it out. Thanks, Dom. Thanks all the listeners. We'll talk to you next time. After Dark Radio Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.